Hello, and welcome to 20 Lore Pro, a community of Lorcana players who enjoy deck building, competing, and opening Lorcana product. You can find out more at our Discord community, 20 Lore Pro/Discord, link in the description. We have tons of upcoming events, deck lists, and deck discussions, like in today's video, where I interviewed SirAshtown, the creator of Emerald Steel Hand Destruction, which has over 1,900 comments in our 20 Lore Discord. We want to thank SirAshtown for giving us a deep dive into this great deck and his playstyle. We hope you enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. Today I'm joined here with SirAshtown looking at his Emerald Steel Hand Destruction decktech. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Could you walk us through just the main combo of the deck and really the overall strategy that you're trying to accomplish?
The main combo, you want Bucky on turn 2, you want Prince John on turn 3, and then from there you're just going to be dropping Floodborn after Floodborn. So ideally a Donald or Jafar on 4 into a Beast on 5, and then turn 6 you have a lot of options because that's when you can start shifting your units on top of themselves and then playing like Bippity Boppity. And that's how you really surprise your opponent with a lot of discards in a single turn, as well as singing Sudden Chill. So again, being turn 6 being the crucial turn before Be Prepared, you want to get as many discards as you can possibly get, ideally emptying their hand before that crucial turn. But even against the other decks, it's just got a great curve. The Bucky, John, and then Floodborn is really hard to keep up with.
Being able to shift Donald on top of itself and then Bibbidi Bobbidi singing it really makes Bucky such a powerhouse.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of value you can get out of that one card.
Yeah, Bucky definitely being, like you said, an MVP.
Big time. For winning those games that you see the engine, you should be winning the match more often than not.
Now, what would you say are the top finishers for this deck that kind of help round out your strategy?
It's a pretty low to the ground deck. There's definitely a lot of like 3-drops, but the Hercules and the Tinkerbells are just amazing in the late game. I've gone through some really grindy matchups against like blue steel or purple steel, and the games go on really long because Whole New World keeps refilling hands and whatnot, but a lot of times they just can't deal with Hercules. He's just such a pain to get rid of, and obviously we all know how good Tinkerbell is. Also having the option to shift into the big Tinkerbell can definitely help as well, but Hercules, honestly, he's just an MVP. He's just a powerhouse of the deck.
Yeah, including Hercules in your list instead of the Flynn's for the more steel matchup. Have you seen a lot of good results from that inclusion?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I felt before when I was playing the Flynn's, I got a little bit frustrated. I was like, wow, how do I beat these steel decks? Like, it almost feels helpless because yeah, I set up my engine, but then they just clear it with a grab your swords and then they Whole New World, and now I just like don't have anything to do from there. And as soon as I put in the Hercules, it was kind of an epiphany moment. And I was like, okay, I'll play down Hercules instead of Prince John. And then on turn 4, I can shift into the big Hercules. And that's like either right before they Whole New World, and then I have a giant threat they have to deal with, or I put down the Hercules early and then they do the Whole New World and it draws me into the big Hercules and I'm able to instantly shift him down. And it really has made like all the difference in the matchup. I feel much more confident against all the steel decks with Hercules.
That's great. Considering that Sapphire Steel, that deck specifically is one of your tougher matchups, but even seeing Amber Steel, Whole New World, being able to have that access to Hercules can be strong.
Oh yeah, big time.
So your best combo in the deck, you'd say, is getting Bucky down early and then Prince John and then discarding away.
Yep, that's the main game plan. And again, it's matchup dependent. If you're against red-purple, that's absolutely what you want to be doing. And this deck essentially is a combo deck in that matchup specifically because you're going to just ink all of your steel cards basically, except for maybe Jafar or Beast, just for being Floodborn triggers, but you just want as much discard as you can possibly get so that you empty their hand before turn 7. So you're just essentially playing a combo deck at that point. It's kind of solitaire-like, which is not very fun for the opponent, but it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do to beat the best deck in the format, right? And then against like the steel matchups, you definitely play a more grindy game with the Hercules and whatnot. But yeah, it's pretty versatile overall, I would say.
What did you say were the flex cards that you were looking at between Hercules and the number of grab your swords?
You can alter the number of Hercules. I like maxing out just so in the matchups where you want him, you're likely to find it. But you could maybe cut down to 3 and 3 if you wanted to. 3 little ones, 3 big ones. And then all the removal suite, I think, is interchangeable between the Smash, the Strength of the Raging Fire, and the Grab Your Swords. I'm running 3 of each Smash and Strength, 2 grabs. You could alter those numbers. Again, I just like the even split on the 3 drops because you want each one in different scenarios going either first or second against the Amber Steel matchup, where you want Smash going second and Strength going first. And Grab Your Sword, I'm hesitant to increase the count just because of that uninkable count. I want to keep as low as possible. And I often brick the Grab Your Swords, even though I'm only running 2. So I definitely am hesitant about increasing that number. But if your local meta has a lot of aggro decks, you definitely could do so.
If you have a second, would you be okay showing us how the deck works in gameplay?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So we're joined here today with SirAshtown, who's going to be showing us some gameplay of his Emerald Steel hand destruction deck. Thank you so much, SirAshtown, for allowing us to get an insight into your playstyle.
Yeah, of course, it's my pleasure. Let's get into a game here and see what we queue up against. Hopefully not blue steel, but you know, it happens. All right, looks like we have an Amber Steel. So this matchup is very tempo oriented, and I can already see we have essentially the perfect curve. But the problem is going into Amber Steel, we're not likely to be able to play it out in time because we go Bucky on 2, we go John on 3, but since we're going second, they've already dropped their Singer, probably an Aerial, and then they can just use Grab Your Swords to wipe the Prince John, and then we are just dead in the water from there. So in this matchup, going first, maybe I would keep the John, but going second, I'm actually going to send him back. We do have the Tinkerbell combo, so going Bucky into Little Tink into Big Tink is much more better on tempo. So I think we're going to keep that. We can also get rid of... Oops. Well, I guess the timer ran out there on us, so that's a little unfortunate. I would have sent back the Prince John and probably the Donald Duck and the Big Hercules, but we're going to see what happens here. So we got 2 Donalds. We don't need both of them, so we'll ink 1. Captain Hook is a card you don't normally see very often in the Amber Steel, so that's interesting. Robin Hood as well. I think we want to keep the Jafars just for the threat of potentially shifting multiples. The Bucky having Ward here is really good. It's not going to die to the Robin Hood ping. And also, if they wanted to use something like the Storm, let the Storm Rage on, that can't target Bucky here as well. So pretty resilient board. Let's just hope for no Aerial, I guess. Aerial is always the biggest concern here. And no Aerial is definitely lucky for us. So now we have a couple of options, because what we could do with only 3 cards in hand, they might be trying to get up to 5 to hardcast Whole New World. So our options are either either way, we're going to ink a Jafar here, actually, because if we get into the late game, we'll want that Hercules. Now our options are either playing the Tinkerbell, or we can actually play the Hypnotize. So if we play the Tinkerbell, it's better on tempo, but if we play the Hypnotize here, and they ink next turn, that leaves them with only 2 cards, and then we'll be able to drop our Jafar, putting them down to a single card, and if we happen to draw something like a Sudden Chill, then we can full dump their hand before they're able to play Whole New World, and that could be a game-winning play. So it's a really tough choice. I think I actually want to go for the discard here. If it fails, that might be rough, but if we can empty the hand, we're absolutely going to win this game with things like Big Tinkerbell and Hercules coming up. So we're actually going to play the Hypnotize here and see what happens. In this deck, you often have to take gambles. You know, you have to plan out your turns very far in advance. You have to know what curve you're going for and what's your win condition. And I think that was actually a really interesting choice right there that I just highlighted. So I'm glad we got to see that one. looks like they're having a tough choice. They obviously bricked with a lot of uninkables, as we can see the 2 Robin Hoods already on board, so they didn't get an ideal start by any means, but I also missed my mulligan, unfortunately, so that's a little rough. We drew Grab Your Sword, which that's a little unfortunate. We're probably not going to be using that, but see, now they ink, and now if they play a card, then we get to dump their last card. Oh wow, looks like they didn't even have Whole New World, so that's a little surprising. But now we can drop the Tinkerbell on our following turn since we don't need the Bucky trigger anymore. And then that's going to let us shift the big Tink and then do a Grab Your Sword to full clear the board on the following turn. So this is definitely like a really weird game here. They had the Flute as well, another uninkable. So it's definitely an unfortunate start for them. If they top deck something like Let the Storm Rage on or Strength of a Raging Fire, that will be unfortunate because they could kill off the Tinkerbell, preventing our shift. But they did not, so we will get the shift Tinkerbell play here. So what we're going to do is shift the Tink. And I think we just sing the Grab Your Sword to clean up the board. And we're sitting pretty from here. Next turn, we can even Bippity our Tinkerbell back to hand. We'll ink a Tinkerbell here. Amber Steel doesn't have any rushers, so we're free to quest with the Bucky. And now they essentially have to top deck Whole New World. They did not. Grab Your Sword isn't going to be quite good enough, because now we can ink our Bucky. And we can play out Hercules. We can actually sing Bippity just to get 2 full health threats here on board, and we'll pass there. Thinking back, I could have done the Bippity play first and inked the Tinkerbell instead, which would have been better, but that's fine. We're free to just develop fully into our board here since they're top decking. We don't care if they top deck a Grab Your Sword. That's pretty irrelevant. They'd have to get Whole New World to get back into this game, and that's going to be their whole turn. So that lets us just push the lore race as quick as possible here. We get another Hercules is great. I think this game's about over. Definitely a very unorthodox game. Not your typical... I mean, we'll even just ink this, because if they're holding a card in hand, they're just dead. If they top the Whole New World, well, we have all the ink in the world, but there's no way they're clearing 2 Hercules and a Tinkerbell. So quite an odd game there, but
Yeah,
there you go. I mean, we'll take it, I guess.
Wow.
Sometimes things like that happen. And the thing is, discard decks are incredibly punishing to the opponent. So if they do brick a hand like that, as we saw, they have very limited options in their own play. It kind of tunnels them into only a specific line of play, literally just playing what they have, and that's often not good enough, and you just rip their hand apart and you get them into top deck mode very early. So the deck can be very, very punishing to bad draws on the opponent's end.
Wow, that Tink, the shift Tink into singing Grab Your Swords is really good.
Yeah, that's absolutely what you want in this matchup, because that's really just going to steal the tempo for you real quick, because everything that deck plays pretty much is 3 health or less. You know, the Ariels, the Gastons, as we saw, Robin Hoods or Simbas or whatever. They only have a few big units. Those are the shift units, like the big Stitch or the big Cinderella or whatever. But yeah, shift Tink into Grab Your Sword. That's a classic move that's very, very devastating against Amber Steel.
Thank you so much, ZeroSkater12, for joining us today. We really appreciate you walking us through the deck and showing us how to play this amazing deck list. Just want to invite everyone to join the 20 Lore Pro Discord. If you have a chance, please like and subscribe to the video, leave a comment, and we hope to see you in the next video.